Let us take a look at the 37 practices of a Bodhisattva. Today we're going to look at bringing the object of attachment onto the path. Since pleasures are like salty water, however much one partakes of them, cravings will only increase. Hence, it is the practice of Bodhisattvas to abandon immediately all objects that generate attachment. Even if one obtains desirable objects, let it be form, sound, fragrances, flavors, and textures endowed with beautiful and pleasing, sweet and delicious, or smooth and lovely qualities resembling the enjoyments of the god Indra, it is just as if one has drunk salty water. However much one takes use of them, one never feels satisfied or fulfilled. Whenever we drink the salty water, the more salty water you would drink, the more thirsty you would be. Salty water would not quench your thirst. When you apply that to the worldly possessions such as money, if you have $100, you would want 1,000, and if you have 1,000, you want 2, and then you want 20,000, and then hundreds of thousands and a million. So that is the limitlessness of the desire and craving of human beings. In this way, craving and suffering will only increase. Therefore, one should generally not become attached to any materialistic enjoyments, and in particular to any kinds of attractive belongings and necessities, large or small. Rather, without letting any time lapse, one must give up such enjoyments and objects and abandon them immediately in order to stop clinging and attachment. Of course, this must be very difficult. This is the manner of practice whereby all bodhisattvas bring an object of attachment onto the path. Recently, I've encountered some Khenpos and some monastics. Their lifestyle is very simple. Let it be their provisions and all the belongings that they have at their homes. It's very simple. Other than the necessities for their livelihood, their home looks very clean and not a lot of belongings. Rather than there are people that kept on stuffing their homes, their rooms, and hoarding things. In some ways, I think it's quite important to practice letting go of things instead of getting a lot of stuff at your home. Otherwise, if you were to have all of the things in your home, and it's very difficult to probably get out of the door at times when it's really necessary. For example, if there's a fire and you really need to get out of your door, and if your door is all piled up by a lot of stuff, then it would be very difficult.
And
then, according to the Sutra of Great Display, it says that sense pleasures create great misery and harm. They bring terror, perpetual enmity, and negative emotions. They're like the sharp edge of a knife and are equal to the leaves of a poisonous plant. Like a vessel of vomit, they are discarded by noble ones. As well as delighting in sense pleasures will, like drinking salt water, never be satisfying. Thus, it is taught the shortcomings of sense pleasure abound. In purposeful expressions, it is said, even if it may ring with Karshpana coins, with lots of ring of gold and silver, the desirous ones will not be satisfied. Just as there are lots of people with, for example, with lots of money and wealth, they still would keep on working for more wealth. All desires are petty and full of faults. All the wise ones have understood. The sutra requested by Narayana also teaches that whether one feels attachment for and cannot let go, must be given up. Letter to a friend teaches all desires yield devastation, and the way of Bodhisattva repeatedly makes statements such as, in this world and in the one to come, all desires cause destruction. All these point out the shortcomings of attachment to sense objects in general. The many defects of specific attachment to glory, alcohol, women, wealth, and commodities are also explained, but will not be elaborated over here. Last year, when we were having the class on the Bodhisattva's aspiration, the Sutra of Bodhisattva's supreme aspiration, it talks about the 20 types of faults associated to receiving offerings, and then 20 types of merits of the generosity of Dharma, and 20 types of faults associated to sleep and distraction, and so on. I think whenever you have time, you should really read into that sutra, because it really talks about the 20 types of faults and 20 types of merits associated to lots of things that we would encounter. I really hope you can pay attention to the Dharma teachings that we've received. Maybe at the time you were listening to the class, you didn't really pay attention to lots of those things. And afterwards, if you can read or study it again, you would be able to generate more insights. For example, the faults associated to frivolous speech, or the faults associated to sleep. Over here, it talks about the faults associated to alcohol, to women, and so on. So over here, it says that I will not elaborate further. And then, according to Letter to a Friend, the teacher of gods and humans has taught that among all riches, contentment is the most supreme. The way of the Bodhisattva states, the blissful enjoyment of contentment is difficult even for Lord Indra to find. Also, that which is not perceived as attractive, that is an excellent object. According to the aphorism of Sakya, it talks about the Indra would not be able to enjoy the virtue of contentment. But what's the best kinds of object? The best object is that which is not perceived as attractive. Nowadays, people have a lot of greed. They would think that this fruit is good, this house is good, this rag is good, the phone is good, the iPad is good. People with a lot of greed, they would enter into a large mall and they would find that it doesn't matter how much money they have, it is not going to satisfy their greed. For the monastics, I think, since there is not much of pressure, in the now world, maybe the very rare group nowadays, the rare group of people nowadays that do not have pressure is the monastics, because they don't really have to worry about dying from hunger and thirst. On top of that, there is no burden from the family with the blessings of the three jewels and from the Buddha. Naturally, they would be able to live in this world without having to provide their labors. Nowadays, people have lots of pressure in work to maintain their livelihood, especially after the pandemic. People have lots of pressure to think about how to carry on the life with various kinds of level of work. So now as monastics, we need to cherish the life that we have and engage in studying, contemplation, and practice. Do not think that you should postpone your opportunity to study and practice the Dharma. Do not think that you can engage in practice after 60 years of age. While you're still young, you need to practice at least for half an hour in meditation. And if you know some of the teachings on seeing the nature of your mind, that would be really good. Even if you don't know that, if you can contemplate upon contentment and contemplate upon the suffering of samsara and the importance of karma, as well as the virtues and merits of bodhicitta, if you can contemplate on that, that would be really wonderful too. But of course, you need to listen first and then engage in contemplation. We need to bring a balance into our practice. Not only that you should give Dharma teachings or listen Dharma teachings, you need to engage in the contemplation as well. And then you can serve the Sangha by providing your service to the Sangha. But simply providing your service to the Sangha is not enough. You should contemplate the Dharma teaching again and again in your mind, so that the teachings that you received in Dharma classes can become your own, can become part of you. You should not read it and then pay lip service of it. You should rather contemplate so that it becomes part of you. Without doing so, the teaching would never become part of your spiritual wealth. It is only after contemplation and practice that it becomes yours. If you were to simply read and think about it a little bit, then it is just like a thirsty person after drinking water threw it all out. Now that we've encountered such wonderful Dharma teachings, and lots of the teachings are not difficult to understand, for example, the ones from 37 Practices of Bodhisattva, there is nothing difficult about it. As long as you know how to read and how to listen, then you should be able to understand it. But the key is how much of it can you practice. I understand it would be difficult for me to ask of you to come to full enlightenment or become a bodhisattva. That would be difficult. But you need to be able to adapt some of the teachings into your life. Otherwise, if I were to habitually give you Dharma teachings and you habitually listen to it and then not truly change your mind stream, what's the point of Dharma teaching? Each of you, after studying the Tibetan Buddhism, especially coming here into the Tibetan regions, you need to understand that it is not just for you to take some photos and then you would be able to understand Tibetan Buddhism. The nectar of Tibetan Buddhism that streams down from the Ganges mountain, in order to truly enter into our field, our mind field, and reap harvest fruition, and probably benefit sentient beings that's thirsty or hungry, we have to first of all embody the Dharma. We have to first be able to reap the fruition of such wonderful Dharma, so that we can bestow it and we can generously give it to the sentient beings who made auspicious connections. Without so, then you would not be able to receive any of the benefits of it. Sometimes I think that Pontsog Rinpoche went so far to seek for the Dharma teachings, and then the place that Pontsog Rinpoche went to was very tiny, was not significant, and the way he lived was much more harsh than how we are living right now. However, He gained such great wisdom from the mind stream of his teacher. He got the key of the treasure from his teacher. And then he started propagating the Dharma teaching. Of course, we cannot compete or compare to Ponzo Rinpoche. But I hope at least wherever you would go, you would not just bring back a Dharma book, rather you would bring back a mind that has already transformed. Without a mind that has already transformed, you won't have the capacity to benefit others or yourself. Without your mind that's being transformed, wherever you are, you would simply squander your time carelessly. You would spend your time in distractions. For example, if you were to stay in Harvard University for 2 or 3 years, it is simply a description if you have not learned anything, if you have not truly engaged in throughout that time. That is why I asked of you to do journaling every day for the last year, and whomsoever did so, I am not going to give you an award, so to speak, but I will give you a blessed object as a symbol, as a symbolic gesture. It is mainly to see whether some of you can be very steady and journaling whatever changes that you have accumulated throughout the last year. The practice is accumulation of little by little progressions. It is not that you can accumulate all of the wisdom like ocean, so we need to try our best. Let us maybe stop here today. Thus, it is praiseworthy to immediately reject objects that engender clinging and attachment.